And thank you guys. I will call the City of Dunsmuir City Council meeting for May 21st to order at 6:07 p.m. We will now, I'm just going to go over some Zoom rules really quick. Let me minimize this bad boy. So all of the mics are going to be muted for members of the public, and they will only be muted by myself during public comment windows, which is items number 4, 10, and 11. Members of the public may give public input through the chat function, or you may raise your hand and the chair will unmute the commenter for their 3 minutes. To your raise your hand function, you're going to go to your toolbar either at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen, hit participants. You'll see this lovely little participant box come up. If you go to your name right here at the bottom, it says probably like mute. There's a triple dot here. There should be a raise your hand option. So that's where you go to raise your hand. And I will call on you as we get to you. Just thank you again for being patient. We just ask that you still be patient while we work through the programming and sometimes weak internet connections to improve your connection. We recommend you do not use video. There are other advantages to not using video, especially when we are in our own homes and comfortable with each other. If you haven't been reading all of the news articles for California planning commissions or city councils and how many people have had to give up their seats because of Zoom meeting mishaps, I invite you to do that after this meeting. It's quite funny what people do. So at any point you lose connection to the meeting, we'll wait about 15 minutes and try to get it back up and running. If we can't get it back up and running, we will consider the meeting adjourned. So that's our little housekeeping. Also to let you know, we are recording this meeting. And then I believe Elijah as well is recording the meeting. So we have plenty of recordings that we can provide if you need that. So we will move into our first, which is, again, I already called us to order. We'll do the flag salute. Flag salutes are really fun when we all do it at the same time. So Councilmember Deutsch, could you do the flag salute for us today?
I sure will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So moving on, we'll do roll call. Wendy?
Councilmember Arf.
Here.
Councilmember Bryan.
Present.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Present.
Councilmember Keisler.
Did we accidentally mute Dave?
Councilmember Keisler.
Oh, he got muted by accident.
I don't see him on anymore. Where did he go?
He's still there.
He's in the participants. I'm trying to unmute him, but he has to hit the button on his side to activate his microphone.
Dave, bottom left-hand corner, start audio. Unmute. There we
Okay.
go.
Councilmember Keisler. Councilmember Keisler. Yeah, we're doing roll call, Dave. So I'm calling your name, Councilmember Keisler.
I'm here, but my camera just stopped.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No worries. Okay, and finally, the Mayor Lucchese.
I am present. Great, thank you. We'll now move into special presentations, and we do have Mike Rodriguez today who's going to give us an update on Parks and Recreation.
Am I on?
Yes, you are on.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I appreciate the time to give you an update of what's happening in the Park and Recreation. It's been a very challenging last few months as we're all going through it. First thing I want to do is acknowledge that we have, as of June 30th, we'll have 3 vacancies on our Recreation and Park Board. And I've been working with Wendy, and she's got the notice out. So we're going to fly the notice for a couple of weeks, I believe. And then we'll come back to City Council, and I guess we're going to be coming to your council meeting to discuss the board appointments. Out of the 3, I think they're all considering reappointment. but they can't officially do that until they submit a letter. So that's one thing that the district is working on right now. The other one is with the virus going on, we pretty much had to go with the CDC guidelines on the use of our facilities. At the present time, the office is closed, but I do check emails 2 or 3 times a week, answer phone calls. We've had visitors a lot these last few days, just coming in through town, wanting to find out where's the place of interest. And that's been interesting. With the parks, the park is open, the city park, the restrooms are closed, the water is off, and we still get people come down there that we have to encourage them to be social distance consciousness about that. So we've politely asked them to follow the rules, and they have. A lot of the visitors recently have been out of the area. There is a concern about this weekend of a lot of people coming up to our area. I don't know if you're feeling it from the city perspective, but a lot of things are happening. The ballpark is, we've had some vandalism, so we're closing that at night at 7. So we had some vandalism in our grandstands. I met with the code enforcement, Mark Allen, recently about dogs. So we're going to coordinate some schedules with him. I've been working with the sheriff's department on having the park check more normally than ever, just because of the traffic we're getting. And that's pretty much it as far as the parks go. We're still waiting on the state and the county health department on if we're going to be able to open the pool or not. Pools are in phase 3. So I meet regularly with the health department on the guidelines. The guidelines are going to be pretty tough. There is concern from the board about the risk and the liability, and a lot of people are concerned about the exposure and the social distance and the sanitation. So we haven't heard from the county or the state on phase 3 yet. So we're kind of waiting on that before the board can make a decision. Like I said, it's been a very interesting time for everyone, and we've had to reduce staff, and we're trying to cut costs. The rec building is not available for public use. So we are seeing an impact of losing some revenue because there is no softball tournament this weekend. There's no railroad days. They canceled the Citizen of the Year dinner, and so we're waiting on they canceled the Tribute to the Trees concert in June, and haven't heard about the Roof Fest yet. So I'm waiting to work with the Rotary and Chamber on that. So, and we've been working on park maintenance, just maintaining the parks. Recently, we had a good work day with the Deadwood crew at Dolly Park. And with the city's help, we're able to bring in a big dumpster, a 20-yard dumpster, to do a lot of cleanup. And so they came in just last week and did a great thorough cleaning job of Dolly Park. So it's open for public visitation. Again, there's no restrooms there also. So we put signs up, and unfortunately they take them down. Our playgrounds are closed. We put caution tape around them. Again, they tear them down. So we're having issues with just some disrespect in the parks right now. But we're trying to maintain the good relationship with everybody that comes through the park. So that's a quick update if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. So just to remind everyone of protocol, we will just do council member questions at this point.
Yeah.
And members of the public may make public comment during the general public comment coming up. But we have a question from council member Arth. Go ahead.
Well, my question is, and I understand the board is in transition, are you thinking ahead through the summer and fall months for City Park with the notion it's going to be a very attractive place for tourists, and the idea that the water's turned off and the restrooms are closed, that sort of seems to maybe invite some of the problems you're talking about?
Well, I think with phase 2, we're seeing a little bit more flexibility. The concern was if we open the bathrooms, then we're going to have our staff come in, clean them on a more than normal regular basis. Because we don't want to get any kickback that somebody's saying that they used our park and they got sick because they used the bathroom and they had some illness. So we're just being careful. But I know with I think phase 2 extension or addition, that gives us a little more, somewhat flexibility. We're going to be looking at these next few weeks. We're just waiting to hear from the county health department.
The top search result.
Thank you. Councilmember Deutsch, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Bryan, questions?
Yes, thank you for giving us this report. And I was just trying to remember, I know with the pool issue, you were working on a grant to resurface the pool because it's
Right.
long overdue. And we did a patch job last summer. But I remember there being some issues. The pool needed to be closed, for that repair job. Was there any update on that grant, or is there a way to maybe turn this into an opportunity to improve it?
With the city's help, we're able to get that crack fixed, and we're able to have a season last year. The grant process we're looking at now is they're on hold. So all the grant applications that we're going to be looking into, they're all on hold at the present time.
Have we applied for anything and we're like in hold there, or?
No, not yet. They haven't opened up the application process.
Okay.
Even though I keep on calling them, we haven't heard anything. They're saying that because of what's going on, all the grants have been put on the table for now. But I will still be working with them as soon as I get some more information from them. But the pool will be ready. If we can get it open, we can probably run a couple more seasons. But again, because of the virus issue, there is concerns about the risk and the requirements by the state and the county.
Councilmember Bryan, any other questions?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Keisler, do you have any questions?
No,
All right, thank you. I just have a couple of questions kind of similar to Councilmember Bryan. Since the parks are not open, do you intend to spend any time maybe working on like a master plan for the next 5 years for the parks? Or I know Prop 68 might be the grant that you said isn't open,
Right.
But if you take a look at the requirements, it requires a lot of public input. Is there going to be an effort to maybe do some of that?
Yes.
Close so
Yeah,
that we can
I
get
started
ahead?
that. I started that last year, and because of what's going on, we put it on the table. But it's going to be coming up during our budget sessions next month. Yeah, we definitely need to have a master plan or some type of guideline or a roadmap for the parks. Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing that.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other questions. Oh, Councilmember Arth, did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions. Thank you, Mike, for tuning in today. We appreciate that. And I'm going to move us over.
One
to
comment,
our-
if I can make one comment.
Go ahead.
Just want to thank the city for their continued support of the rec district and the pool and the facilities, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening in our arena.
And
So,
thank you for the update.
Appreciate the help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Real quick, does our city manager have any questions at this point?
I don't actually at the moment. Mike and I met, and so a lot of my questions were answered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Mike. Have a good night. If you're going to tune out right now, or if you'd like to stay with us, feel free.
I'll stay a little
we are-
longer. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're going to move into our other presentation, which is from Steve and Bryan with the community team. So I'm going to mute Mike and I'm going to unmute. All right, Steven, you on?
Yes, thank you.
And I'll stop
Hi,
sharing for a second. Oops, sorry.
Am I good? I'm
See
sorry.
everyone's faces, so go ahead.
Okay, I'm Stephen Bryan. I'm the Regional Director of South Siskiyou County with the Siskiyou Community Resource Collaborative and the Director of the Dunsmuir Community Resource Center. I came tonight to give a presentation on an update on our Dunsmuir Community Care Team. I'm the head of the Dunsmuir Community Care Team, which is a organization. It's a group of concerned organizations, city leaders, and county members, including the Sheriff's Department and Sheriff John Lopi and Ben Wetstein and their officers, and City Council Member Bruce Deutsch. It's Karen O'Quinn with the Dunsmuir Library. It's members of Public Health, Behavioral Health. It's Susan Keeler, Superintendent Principal of the Dunsmuir Elementary School. It includes Ray Keller, Superintendent Principal of the Dunsmuir High School. Daleen Shoup from the Dunsmuir Clinic. Linda Sheben from Disaster Planning and Action Committee. And then we have various different members join from time to time of other organizations to help update and give presentations, including Carolyn from the Census 2020. And we have Paris Petrick join us from Siskiyou Media Council, and Shireen, who's on here tonight with the newspaper covering the Dunsmuir City Council, joins us from time to time. We meet regularly. We used to meet monthly. This started a couple years ago, or a few years ago, before I came down and took over. Linda Sheben and Bruce were both very instrumental in helping keep the meetings going while I was getting my feet wet in my new position. And then I stepped in and took over about a year and a half ago or so. We were meeting monthly since COVID-19 took over daily life. We started meeting on a weekly basis. There's a lot going on. As you know, information changes on a daily basis, sometimes hourly. So we wanted to make sure we were staying connected and providing as much support to the citizens of Dunsmuir, and making sure we weren't duplicating service, but we were enhancing each other's programs by working together. We've done this in the past very effectively. We do an annual turkey, ham, Thanksgiving giveaway up at the high school, where all of our different organizations pull together our resources and throw great community events such as that. So we already have a great working relationship with each other, and we just wanted to be in regular contact and make sure that we were filling any gaps during the COVID situation, making sure the city is supported as much as we can. And it's been really great to work with all the individuals on the Dunsmuir Community Care team. And I appreciate the city's backing of the Dunsmuir Community Resource Center. And I think that's pretty much the history of it. If you have any questions, maybe Bruce should go first. He could point me in the right direction if you're looking for some more information.
All right. And Bruce is muted, so I'm going to unmute Bruce first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Stephen, the only thing I would ask that you add is what's going on with food, how we're able to provide food, and the network that you've created to distribute the food. I think everyone would really appreciate knowing how that all works.
Okay, great. So since at the beginning in March, when things went into a lockdown mode and social distancing went into effect, and thousands of citizens were being laid off in the Siskiyou County, we applied for an emergency grant through the Shasta Regional Foundation, and which helped beef up our food pantry and our emergency food program. The city was instrumental in keeping that pantry stocked over the wintertime with the funds that they helped us with last year. Unfortunately, that food did run out, but Shasta Regional stepped right in, got the funding to us within a couple of days after applying. I worked with and was able to handpick the items and stock the resource center with them. Protein, fruits, vegetables, pastas, cereals, a variety of healthy food to help supplement the food pantries in other people's homes. We really were concerned about people being laid off. We worked with GNS. They moved to a monthly commodities distribution. They were doing it every other month. Now they're doing monthly, which has been great. We had a great influx of food, 211 food boxes through United Way. Came in later in the month of March, so we're delivering those too. So due to the COVID and the social distancing, we didn't want to close our doors. We wanted to stay open. We were wanted to support the community as much as possible. So what we did was we stopped doing food distribution where people came and picked it up. What we did instead was we reached out to the community and sought volunteers. We had instant gratification because people were coming in droves to sign up to be volunteers for us. We vetted them. We came up with a game plan. We organized our entire food needs pantry list, verified addresses, made a list, broke it up into sections of the community, and divided that out amongst the volunteers who offered to deliver the food. What we did was we staged it throughout the day. We'd have a volunteer come in, we'd load them up, give them the map of where to go, and then 30 minutes later, the next volunteer would show up. So there was never more than one person picking up food at a time. It was only our staff distributing the food out. We used masks and gloves to bag the foods. Extra precautions were taken when they were distributed out. We made sure to include information on our services that we could provide to them during this time, which was help if you weren't already enrolled in CalFresh benefits through the county. We work with Health and Human Services directly with CalFresh benefits. So we started, one of the things we expanded in that area was helping people sign up for CalFresh over the phone, getting their ROI signed in creative ways, like we'd email it to them, they could email it back, or they could stop by when they had time. We'd make an appointment for them to stop by and sign the paperwork. Other things we helped out with was getting enrolled for unemployment benefits online. We helped with stimulus checks. So we provided all that information to them, information on the 211 program that launched at the same time, how to sign up, how to get help, how to identify what the needs were through the 211 program, besides calling us directly. And we included the food boxes for that program. We've been very lucky in Dunsmuir since the start of this COVID. We've been very rich in food, and pulling together with GNS, Shasta Regional Foundation, and United Way and 211, and using city funds, we've had a well-stocked pantry and been able to give out bags of food daily. We're supplementing with the pantry with free organic farm-raised fresh eggs from Bel Campo for 3 months. I just brought down about 500 pounds of potatoes on Friday, which we've been distributing out. We were always looking for other ways to supplement the food pantry and the dry goods. That's why the Dunsmuir Community Garden is so important to the community, is because we can grow locally grown organic non-GMO vegetables in Dunsmuir and add that to the food pantry to supplement senior commodities and food commodities, cut down on sugar intake, and create a healthier community. We also are getting ready to launch an online cooking class, because that's another one of our focuses through the community garden, is education and teaching people how to stretch their budget, cook on a budget, grow your own vegetables, be creative with your menus, pick whatever you have on hand and make a meal out of it. Our cooking classes are well attended and well liked. So I wanted to still provide that service to the community. So look for that. That'll be coming out in in June. We'll be doing our first virtual online cooking class. We also have a Living Long and Well class that's starting in June, which is geared for anybody 40 and over. Healthy aging tips, exercise, financial, health, mental health. There's a lot of great information. It's the 3-week course that'll be on Mondays from 1 to 3. There's a lot that we're doing. I could go on and on, so I guess I'll stop here and if you have any questions.
That's fantastic.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I mean, it's been a lot of people's concern about food security, and that's really great that what you're doing. But Councilmember Arth has a question, so I'm going to go over to him. Go ahead, Councilmember Arth.
Well, it's sort of a softball question because Steve and I have been spending a fair amount of time with the current season of the Dunsmuir Community Garden, but I'm hoping Steve could give us an idea what the 2020 summer season looks like and do a brief public service announcement for the blessing of the garden next month.
So last year, we applied for a grant also through Shasta Regional Foundation. They gave us $11,300 to build up the community garden, which we doubled the bed capacity. We've been able to buy extra starts. We bought some fruit trees. We've bought extra soil and amendments. We had a large donation of soil once again from Sousa Ready Mix. And we've been enhancing our florals and increasing pollinators and trying to bring in more butterflies and different varieties of insects to help with the growing of the vegetables and the produce. And I think we're going to have a very bountiful year. I'm really excited. We're doing things like lettuce walls and vertical arches and bean pole. We're doing TP bean poles. And the sad part is right now we can't do the children's and families activities that we had numerous ones planned out. So hopefully things will improve and we'll be able to get those going again. One thing we've been very successful in the past is we had weekly Friday morning family gardening classes with children and families, and that was a big hit. That really brought families and community members together. It created new friendships and bonds. It got them into parenting classes and other community programs that we were offering that they didn't really participate so much in before. It helped drive home the fact that social connections are so important, especially in times like these. Now they have a network of friends that they can call and rely on and check in with each other. So just like our knitting groups we do with seniors, we're getting ready to offer some art classes. We got the supplies and we got the art teacher, but unfortunately we're just waiting till we can open up again. But the garden, part of the garden program, to sustain our efforts is we do an adopt a bed program, and it's $100 per bed. All the money goes directly into the garden. It's all used 100% for starts, for supplies, for ongoing upkeep of the garden, whatever it is we need. We just acquired a new greenhouse, a portable greenhouse that we're looking to place into the garden soon. To help us with growing and starts and vegetables. So that funding has been very key to keeping the garden going before we got the grant last year. And now the grant's finished, so it'll be key to keeping it going in our new efforts and ongoing efforts. If anybody's interested, you can call the Resource Center at 235-4400 if you'd like to adopt a bed. If you'd like to volunteer in the garden, we can give you a day and a time to come in so we can still adhere to social distancing, but allow the therapeutic offerings of the garden. It's a great place to clear your mind and feel better about yourself and the community, spending some time in there. I hope I helped answer some of that, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. So, Councilmember Arth, did you have any other questions?
Well, at our last meeting, we decided because of social distancing that the blessing of the garden, the annual blessing of the garden, which is going to occur on Friday, June 5th at 11 in the morning, that we wanted to make it small rather than large, but we will have religious leaders from at least 3 different denominations blessing the garden. If any of you on this call have not yet met Two Leaf, our garden guru, he's there almost every day. And if you've not heard him play his Native American flute or his drum, I hope at least members of the council will consider coming to the blessing of the garden Friday at 11. No overt hugging.
Yeah, I apologize, Peter. I dropped the ball there. Yes, the blessing of the garden. Normally, we put out a flyer and invite the public to join us. This year, we're not doing that. We're trying to keep it to our garden committee and a few other important individuals that really help keep the garden alive and well and growing. But yes, City Council is welcome. I just want to mention that Paris Petrick is videotaping the blessing. So, and she will be broadcasting that on Siskiyou Media Channel, and we'll be showing it on our Facebook. If you don't follow our Facebook already, you're not a friend of ours, please go to Dunsmuir CRC, which stands for Community Resource Center. So Dunsmuir CRC, friend us on there. You'll get all of our programs and offerings and health tips and great videos and activities. So everything will be on there that you're looking for as far as what we're up to.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Deutsch, you have a question.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to make it clear. I don't know if many people know this or have remembered this, but the whole garden thing out there is Councilmember Arth's passion, his baby. He's the father of the garden, and I think he deserves an incredible amount of credit for what he's been doing working with the Resource Center.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Arth and Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just second that. Without Peter, there is no garden. So I just want to put that out there too.
Thank you. Councilmember Keisler, do you have any questions?
I agree with what everybody says. Peter is the godfather of the garden.
Councilmember Bryan, do you have any questions?
No, I'd just like to add my voice to thanking Stephen and Councilman Arth and all the Community Resource Center does for our community.
Thank you. It's our pleasure to be here for the community.
Yeah, thank you. And you pretty much answered all my questions. I was just going to ask if the community garden needed anything else, but I wrote down the phone number. Could you say that again, just in case people want to write that down?
Sure, it's 235-4400. And I just like to put out there that if you volunteer in the garden, you get access to free fresh produce. We give back, you give to us, we give back to you. It enhances giving back in the community. That's why we think the children programs are so important, because it's already planting that seed into the children's minds that when they grow older, that they'll give back too. I know that lately younger adults giving back has been a struggle. So we hope that in the future that we're helping implant that seed into the children's minds so they will give back.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions before we move forward? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time with us and giving us the update. And again, thank you so much for everything that you've been doing so far, and the members of the CRC and the committees that are helping you. It's just fantastic, the support that you've been offering everyone. And I think it's just an absolute godsend right now for some people who may not have been able to work or have been worried about where their food's coming from. It's just a fantastic thing that we can take care of them. So we hope that you stay in contact with us frequently and let us know if we can help you any other way.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't do it without the city's support and without all the great members of the community care team that work together. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Share again. And so we will move on past item number 3. We are now in general public comment. This is the time for the public to address an issue that is not on the agenda. This is also the time to comment on any of our special presentations or any of our consent agenda items. Today, we do not have any consent agenda items, so we will basically open this up for items not on the agenda or comments about our special presentations. And we do have one member of the public, Andrea, is first, so I will, let me go find you and unmute you. And you will have 3 minutes for your comments, but if we have some kind of technical difficulties, I will be nice about that time. So Andrea, can you unmute your, there we go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrea Herr, and I work with Stephen at through the Siskiyou Community Resource Collaborative, and I'm the director of the Resource Center in Weed. But I'm talking to you tonight on behalf of the Dunsmuir Farmers Market. And I don't know if that is on the agenda. I submitted a request for street closure and talked to Todd about that. And I detailed some of the protocol for sanitation and safety. There are requirements from the environmental health the department that we are working with. We are limiting the number of people that will be in the market according to the requirements of the environmental health department. And we're also working with an association of farmers markets throughout Siskiyou County, which is new. It's facilitated by the Siskiyou Economic Development, because the farmers markets not only support, they support local businesses and also provide access to healthy food from, for the citizens, and particularly for really a lot of people in the community love the farmers market, but it also provides access to healthy food for low-income people. We do honor EBT and WIC, and we match that so that people can really stretch their food dollars. And I visited the Mount Shasta Farmers Market this last week. They opened, and they're using a lot of the protocol that I submitted to Todd and to the council. So I'm just here in case there are questions or any further information is needed. I wasn't sure if it would be talked about tonight, but I thought I would go ahead and be here in case more information was needed.
Okay, thank you. I don't believe it's on our agenda for today, but I will talk to our city manager after this meeting about when that's going to be scheduled, and hopefully he'll get in contact with you.
Okay, sounds good.
And then Tim Holt, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate being able to listen to Mike's update and hearing about the amazing things that the Resource Center is doing to feed those in need and all they're doing with the community garden. I have one correction though. We did not cancel the Citizen of the Year dinner. We did postpone it. Originally, it was going to be in May. The committee is going to meet again in July, I believe. And I'm hoping anyway that we can do something either in September or October when things settle down a bit, but we will see. And again, that's the Citizen of the Year, Alexander Dunsmuir, and we are also, we're joining with the Chamber for the Business of the Year award also. So again, not exactly canceled. Hopefully we'll be able to do something in the fall. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make a public comment on items not on the agenda or a comment related to our special presentations? Again, if you go to the participants portion of your toolbar and you go to the bottom part of participants, there should be a raise hand button. If you don't see it, there should be 3 little dots. Andrea, typically we don't go back to individuals, but you did have a little bit of time left. You had about 45 more seconds. So if you wanted to use up those, you can. But we don't typically go back. Oh, yes, Paris, I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. Paris, go ahead.
Thank you, Juliana and council members. The only comment that I would like to make is just a clarification of my last announcement last time of stepping down from where am I talking about? Siskiyou Media Council. I am stepping down as ED and mainly for health reasons, which I don't need to go into, but Elijah Sullivan will be taking over as executive director. I will be staying on in other fashions and will continue to be here for the Dunsmuir City Council meetings and will continue to film projects. So I just wanted to be clear. It was a really strange time afterwards. After I said that, everybody's like, oh no, she got fired. No, just stepping down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. All right, do we have any other members of the public who would like to make a public comment? Right, seeing none, I'm going to move us along in our agenda to item number 5, which is staff and member comments. I'm going to start with staff. So City Manager Uhas, if you'd like to go ahead and talk.
Sure. There's let me think. There are so many things going on. I don't even know where to start. So we are working in the office to get us ready for opening and put plexiglass screens and have a written policy for when we do reopen. And we are replacing our point of sale computer so we can take credit cards, which has been down, but essentially we're up and running full staff other than allowing people in and out of the front door. We have some notices about a bar in town that has opened prematurely, and that was reported to the Siskiyou County Health, and they are being cited. We are working on various things behind the scenes that I really can't talk about at the moment, but if anybody has any questions, I can certainly fill you in, because there's more things than not that are happening.
Hey, council members, do you have any questions for City Manager Uhas? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Arth.
Well, I read the weekly reports from the city manager, and one of the items in the last report, it sounded like there have been discussions with that giant corporation known as Union Pacific on both enforcement costs and getting a safe, legal Moss Spray trail open. Any more detail?
That's a great, thank you, Peter. Yes. So with the number of complaints that we've had, we now have a UP police officer down there on the weekends and showing up periodically during the week. And with all the work and cajoling and threats about doing something about Moss Spray and a near miss a couple weeks ago with a 6-year-old, they finally have reached out, and we have a meeting where they requested myself, Mayor Lucchese, and Tom at the Trails Association from our end, and folks from UP on their end, to talk about making the trail to Moss Spray safer and picking up those discussions that were dropped quite a while ago.
Hallelujah.
Councilmember Arth, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Keisler, do you have any questions for City Manager Uhas?
No, it's just been a long time, and I'm glad we finally were there.
Yeah.
Well,
good job, everybody involved.
I'll believe it when we actually have something. I appreciate forward momentum.
Yeah. Councilmember Bryan, do you have any questions for City Manager Uhas?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Deutsch?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, City Manager Uhas. We'll now move into, we do have a sheriff update. So I did put those numbers in. I don't think Ben is on the call.
He said he's going to be a little late. He's in some other briefing. He's going to jump on as soon as he can.
Okay. If we can, so I did put his numbers into the slideshow. So if he does come on later, if it's okay, we can come back to this item if we're already past. Is that okay with the council?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. All right. We'll now move into member comments, and I'll start with Councilmember Arth.
Madam Mayor and colleagues, I really only have one item, and it relates to yesterday's issue of the Dunsmuir News. I know not everybody reads our local newspaper, but the front page article yesterday, weed counselors want action to repair shuttered buildings. And it's a very well reported rendition of the Zoom meeting held by the Weed City Council. and Mark Juarez and his lawyer participated via Zoom in the meeting. But so we're clear how much farther ahead the city of Weed is compared to our city. Yes, we have different attorneys. The city of Weed has Bob Winston as their attorney, but Bob Winston reported that they are now in the Siskiyou Superior Court system, and they are on the cusp for all three of the buildings that Mark owns in the city of Weed of appointing a receiver. The quote is, "A receiver will be appointed by the court with the legal authority to arrange for repairs to remediate the hazardous conditions pursuant to the Health and Safety Code," according to Weed City Attorney Robert Winston. The receiver is a neutral third party appointed by the judge. The reason this is so important to me as a retired attorney is once this process starts, as the article details, all of the enforcement costs borne by the city of Weed will now be assessable against the properties owned by the property owner. And Mr. Juarez, according to the article, blamed COVID, the inability to find engineers, and so on. But to a person, the 5 members of the city council were not favorable toward another 60-day extension on the $75,000 in fines he already owes the city of Dunsmuir, nor the notion of putting off the receiver and getting things done according to code. So you could take Weed out of the article and put in Dunsmuir and it would read exactly the same. I'm simply hoping, as we look at our general fund, that we could coordinate with the city of Weed on what is a carbon copy duplicate of their enforcement efforts on our way to reclaiming several key buildings in our historic district. Thank you.
Council members, does anyone have any questions for Councilmember Arth?
I agree with everything he said.
Okay.
Well, to that point, it quotes former Mayor Palfini, and here's the quote from Ken Palfini. From his home via Zoom, Councilor Ken Palfini said, "Maybe if you post $1 million and it would all go to the city if nothing gets done in 60 days, then I might agree to a delay."
Yes. All right, thank you, Councilmember Arth. I'm going to move to Councilmember Keisler. Do you have any comments for tonight?
Comments about what we're talking about or comments in general?
This is your time for any general comments on your individual activities or ask questions of staff.
Okay. One, I noticed the city boys doing a lot of sidewalk repairs, and I want to commend them. They're doing an outstanding job. So thank you, Todd, for getting them to do that. They're kicking butt.
They're working hard.
They're working hard, and it's always nice to drive by and seeing them. I work hard, so I appreciate it when I see somebody else doing it. You know, that's all. I'll be putting out the flags tomorrow morning. They'll fly for the weekend. I'll bring them down on Tuesday morning, but we'll let the flags fly throughout town through over the weekend. If you guys see my ugly truck driving around, it was assaulted by a drunk driver last night. So I did not do this to my own truck. Just put that out there.
I'm sorry to hear.
It is ugly.
Yeah, well, rub it in. I want to thank the sheriffs for their rapid response in apprehending this individual. And luckily, he had insurance, and I had insurance, so it's all going to maybe get worked out. Tim Pierce from my own neighborhood watch, he was very instrumental in the apprehension, so I want to thank him. as far as, you know, I miss everybody and I can't wait till this is over, but I still think that we should, you know, take our time with it. That's my opinion.
Okay. Also, I apologize if anyone hears dogs in the background. My dogs are running around right now and I'm trying. So I
I don't hear it.
apologize. All right. Thank you, Councilmember Keisler. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, I would like to say that I've been having a lot of people come to my house and even my job site about their tickets. So after speaking with Todd, I understand that we are coming to some kind of thing, but we need to have some kind of format for the people to bring their complaints about their tickets so that they can be heard. And there's nothing on the ticket telling them how they can go about fighting it or disputing it. So that's something I think we need to address.
Thank you. I believe that we had an item on the agenda for today, but we had to push it to the next meeting because we did not have a resolution from John Kenny available in time, but that will be on a meeting here soon.
As long as they still got the floor, we have some people, counselors. We have a guy that has the Travelers, who's putting a lot of money into town, got grandiose ideas, but he has nowhere to park. And that's something that we kind of maybe need to revise or address. This is something for future thought.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Bryan, do you have any updates for us?
I do not at this time, other than, you know, we're watching city finances unfold. And it's a very uncertain time we're entering. The next couple council meetings probably will be consumed by a discussion of the budget. I know Blake's been working really hard on that. And, you know, we're just going to see where we're at there and move forward. But it's going to be very interesting next year. In that note, I'd just like to encourage everyone to think about and discuss amongst yourself the tax measure we were proposing, because that's going to be coming up rapidly as well in terms of deadlines.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes, ma'am. The one thing I'm most concerned about right now, having spent a lot of time watching the COVID-19 coverage, is that I think right now is probably the most dangerous time for Dunsmuir that we've had so far. We've been blessed with a state that reacted quickly, and because of that, we have really flattened the curve. But now that people are opening up, and particularly the folks down south in the big cities, they're flowing up here. And when I'm out and about going to the store or whatever, I'm usually the only one that's wearing a mask. And it really terrifies me to think that something could land here in a short while and really cause devastation in our seniors and our vulnerable. So one of the things that I'd like to throw into the mix here, and I'm not sure how best to proceed on this, but I've been thinking of ways that we can communicate to people visiting our city that we are concerned and that we wish that they would wear masks. One of two ways, I'll throw it out. I'm not looking for action right now, but just to throw the thoughts there. One would be a simple sign or pennant that could be hung that would simply have a heart and then a mask, so that there's the idea of, you know, respect and love for, and please wear a mask. And the other would be that protect our vulnerable, and a picture of a mask. I just really think that whether or not we make it through this is going to depend on what happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Because with everyone breaking open, it takes 2 weeks before the cases show up at the hospital, and then another 2 weeks before they show up at the morgue. So we're in that realm right now with the opening up, and I just think we need to start looking at how we're going to deal with the visitors that will be coming. And that's all that I have.
Great, thank you. And then updates from myself. Again, as City Manager Uhas mentioned, UP Public Relations is willing to meet with us for a preliminary meeting. They have wanted to keep a couple of the first meetings closed just to discuss different aspects of the project, but we hope to have a more open meeting with the general public or have something available to get some input as we go through the process. We're kind of just taking it day by day to get that going. Oh, and it looks like Ben's available, so I'm going to admit him in. Perfect timing. Other than that, I feel like I've been running around a lot, but I'm not quite sure what I've been doing. So yeah, I think that's mostly what's been going on, and just doing the visioning assessment in the background, and then just assisting wherever city staff need any help with anything. Councilmember Arth, go ahead.
Well, I was unable to attend the virtual town hall meeting with Dunsmuir's merchants, but I know Bruce, Bruce was on the call, and I just wanted to get an idea. There was a brief article in the paper again, made it sound pretty good, but would the downtown merchants want to get together to make, I don't know, a couple thousand masks that say Dunsmuir cares and have them available at all of the stores that are open in Dunsmuir?
Interesting idea.
I know there are people out there making the masks and stuff. I know I have quite a few friends who are making masks for everyone, and it's been really tough actually to get masks from them. Such a need. But yeah, that's something we could probably look into.
If they were made locally, I'd be happy to kick some money in.
Okay.
Peter, just to let you know, that meeting was recorded. I guess we have to check and see where it is right now, but I can get it up there so that you can check it out. Anybody else can. And one of the things that they're looking at doing, the chamber is looking at doing, is organizing a couple of different groups based on industry. So retail, restaurants, lodging, those kind of groups. So they are trying to get active in this. And so if you have some recommendations, I would check with Cindy Foreman and let her know.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And actually, we have Ben available now. So thank you for coming in. You got in right at the right time, Ben. So whenever you're ready, I actually put your stats on a couple of these slides here for you.
Okay. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize for being late. I had a couple things come up that I had to deal with. So I'll just go over the April stats report if we're ready for that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So for the month of April, we had a total of a little over 600 hours of patrol time in. We had 211 calls for service that included self-initiated activity. We pulled 16 cases, 37 traffic stops, 41 citations. We had, I fill in the blank about, I think, 5 arrests. We had a felony arrest for auto theft, as well as possession of stolen property. And there was also a misdemeanor booking for burglary tools. This all happened on Dunsmuir Avenue. We made another arrest of a guy who had 2 felony warrants and had possession of methamphetamine, which was 3.2 grams. This occurred on Shasta Avenue. We arrested somebody else who had a misdemeanor warrant for driving on a suspended license on Dunsmuir Avenue, and we also made another driving on a suspended license arrest on Dunsmuir Avenue. For April, no burglaries. We did have 4 thefts, Patricia, Mountain, Florence, and Rita. 1 assault and battery on Dunsmuir Avenue, 2 domestic disturbances, 3 vandalisms, 2 of which were on Sacramento, 1 on Dunsmuir Avenue. We did do 41 school checks, and we had 18 disturbing the peace calls. Any questions for me?
Council members?
No, just thank you so much. We really appreciate your leadership in law enforcement in our town.
Oh, thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you, sir.
Ditto.
Thank you so much, Ben. I don't think anybody has any questions for right now. So I'm going to close out item number 5 and go to committee reports. Councilmember Bryan, I believe you had a finance committee?
Yes, we did have a finance committee. Just working on what the budget looks like. Council had directed staff and the finance committee to look at a 2-year budget time frame, and we haven't quite got to that, but we're dealing with so much uncertainty in the immediate future. I think it's a little too premature to discuss how much of a budget shortfall we're expecting in general fund revenue, but we'll probably be ready in 2 weeks to begin that discussion at council. The other thing is, it came out, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, but the deadline for passing or registering our ballot measure with the clerk is in early July. So this really needs to be something we focus on as well.
That's correct. And so there are 2 deadlines to hit. One is July 1st to consolidate our election with the counties, and then the other is the 13th, and that's to get what we need on the ballot in terms of potential TUT increase. And both those items will be on the next council agenda.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilmember Bryan for the Finance Committee? All right, seeing none, are there any other committee reports? Airport has not met yet, so that'll be on today for appointments. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Arth, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say 2 things. One is, I think it is absolutely essential for a city with a population of less than 5,000 people to not delay in looking at what lays ahead for the next 24 months. I look at the League of California Cities website, I look at different media reports, and already cities large and small are telling their managers in all the different departments, plan on a 10% cut, a 20% cut, a 40% cut. So it does not behoove us to drag our feet if there's going to be difficult choices to be made in the months ahead. The other point is, as you know, Madam Mayor, I'm a big supporter of the priorities and vision exercise you started. How do we fold the results of that effort, which I appreciate as pre-COVID, into the budget that we're going to be adopting a few scant weeks from now?
I guess I did send out the priority rankings, which I think were probably the most important piece for right now, especially talking about a TUT increase. But as far as the vision statement itself, I think we can do that, you know, as we keep going I think it'll probably be in July, excuse me. I think that will probably be in July that I'll bring that visioning statement or visioning process to council. But at least you have the priorities to make those decisions on. I think that was like the important part that the Finance Committee had requested, is what those priorities were. But that's about it. I mean, like I said, I'm continuing to work on it. It's not one of those things that gets done super quickly, because I have to read through and analyze all of the responses. But I mean, I can try and push to have it done sooner. I can't guarantee it though.
I think July is perfect, but as you know, and as everybody on the call knows, the finance chair's community grant program, the more we could give those seeking support from the city some notion as to what we are and are not able to do and what our priorities are on behalf of the citizens, that will be a good thing.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the Finance Committee report? Seeing none, I'm going to move us into item number 7, which is approval of the minutes. We have City Council regular meeting minutes for May 7th, 2020. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
I move we adopt the minutes.
A second?
All right.
A second.
All right, there was a motion made by Councilmember Deutsch, and I heard Councilmember Bryan get the second. Is there any discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Thank you. So we will now move on. We do not have any consent agenda items, which is a first, I think, for us. We also do not have any public hearings scheduled at this time. So we will go right away into old business, USDA loan and grant contract with no official announcement of award. City Manager Uhas, is that why we have Keith from PACE on? Oh, sorry, City Manager Uhas is muted. Let me go find him.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep. Do you want me to unmute Keith from PACE as well?
Yeah. So a couple things. This is a repetitive item on the agenda that you'll see coming up, but essentially, it's something that I've been alluding to. We have tentatively, we've got a notice that the money is coming our ways, but there's a caveat attached to this that we've got a little over $10 million in a combination of grants and low interest loan money for various water projects around town, which is a big deal. And we've got $1.15 million in IRWIN money for the Springs project. For the USDA rural development loan and grants, the issue that's coming up is that we can go out to bid, but and I believe we can award, but we can't start any work because there is something on the books that says that we can't go forward with a grant if we've got any kind of pending litigation. And so they're worried about our case pending for the California Supreme Court about 218, or a dispute over potential 218 violations. So we need to get that resolved. And what I'm hearing from John Kenny, our attorney, is that the decision is written. It's my understanding, but it actually has to be officially heard, and I don't have a date yet on when that will be heard. But that needs to be resolved before we can move forward and accept the money. And I think Keith is here. He can describe a little bit more about what this money will be used for and how to move forward. And I guess let's let Keith take it away.
Hey, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, hi, Keith.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me join in. I'm just here to answer a variety of questions that you may have at this point. I'm involved either directly or kind of peripherally as project manager, design manager on several fronts for water improvements in your community that we've been working on off and on for 3 or 4 years. The first one that's kind of coming to the finish line is in terms of funding, is the water main replacement project that the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Program is providing grant loan combination that Todd was just talking about. They've given us and you, the city, a list of conditions to meet to acquire that funding. And we're right now diligently going through that with the hope that we'll be able to meet all those conditions in the next few weeks. We're trying to get the plans and specifications out for bid in the next few weeks. The bidding process will be a good 6-week long process, and then another probably 6 weeks before any work could really be started after awarding, assuming that all the funding and the legal issues and everything work out. So even though we're looking to try to go out and advertise for bids for this project, the big water main project, the information we've gotten from USDA is that assuming we meet all the conditions and the legal case is adjudicated in a decent manner, that work could start immediately after that. Well, like I just kind of laid out, we're probably looking at almost 3 months from the time we advertise for bids before we would be able to let a contractor get started working anyway when it goes through the whole process. So we're kind of at the very beginning of that part right now. In that part, just a little background on the water main project. I guess you might not know, it's about 30,000 feet of pipe between water services and water mains that we're replacing. I believe at the end of this project, talking with city staff, I believe that about 75% of your system will have been upgraded into what we like to say is the 21st century, since you guys have an awful lot of way beyond useful lifespan steel pipe that was put in back really by the railroad back in the 20s and 30s. And so we're trying to knock out a lot of that and also get a lot better fire flow, which has become a big important thing recently. So that's kind of the little background. Any questions?
Yeah, we will now move into council questions. Just a second, I have to calm my dogs down.
I have just a question.
Yeah, I'm going to go through the lineup for council questions, and I'm just going to review for the item. Just really quick, just to clarify, either City Manager Uhas or Keith, can you explain what type of action you're looking for from the council before we go into questions?
Well, I'll let Todd maybe take over in a second here. One of the conditions that USDA requires for the funding is that that you have entered into a legal agreement for providing construction administration and construction observation with some entity. And so that's partially why I'm here, to answer any questions you have. That's, I believe, one of the actions that Todd's going to discuss with you. Is that correct?
It is, and so we've got to bring a resolution about signing that legal agreement for the next council meeting.
Okay, so is this an information only item at this point?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go down the line, so I'm going to start with Councilmember Deutsch. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Keith, how does this fit in with the other two projects, particularly the water tank and the Mossbury Springs?
Well, the other two are funded by other agencies, and so their processes is kind of independent as to when they're going to occur.
Okay.
But this is a complement to those. We're replacing several streets. Well, first we're replacing the mains up to where the new tank will be, so that it has a better supply to the city. And then we're replacing early in this project. This pipeline project will almost certainly go through into next year, through most of next summer with a winter shutdown. We're going to have them focus on a few streets that the city staff's very worried about leakage when the tank goes online. The pressures in the town will go up probably about 10 psi overall, and so we're hitting some of those early. So it's all kind of a big process to bring the whole system in line and upgraded. But like I say, the funding parts of it are different. The tank is being funded by the state revolving fund, and I'm not sure. We've been told that their third quarter, which would be July through September, is when the funding agreement to go forward with is supposed to come in. But because it's a steel tank, that pretty much means it won't be able to be constructed until next spring. You can't go and do the welding and the coating and everything of the tank when the weather is cool or wet a lot, which of course is what happens starting about mid-October in your community. And then the IRWM, the Irwin money for the springs, that's I think last we heard that's supposed to come in September with approval. You guys have been recommended for that funding. So all those projects are finally moving forward. It's just wait for the money to come in. Like I say, the USDA water main project's the first one to come in to start really getting down to the details of getting it out and getting some construction done.
Am I correct in assuming that Shasta Avenue is high on that list?
Yes, it is. Yes, since we've had those breakages and stuff.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm going to move over to Councilmember Bryan. Any questions?
Yeah, just a couple quick questions, but they mostly relate to how are we doing relative to our 5-year plan that we adopted in the water project? And if, if there's a delay, do we anticipate, just because of the rising costs of doing business, it potentially costing more than what was originally projected?
I don't know if, Todd, you want me to answer that?
Yeah, why don't you hit that?
Okay, I don't know the 5-year plan real well. I think Paul Reuter worked very closely with you guys on that. I do know, having talked to him quite a bit, about the rates that were put into effect to be able to cover the low interest loan. The fact that the rate, I believe, I want to say was like estimated to be like 2.7% was the expected rate of the loan. And of course, rates have dropped dramatically. So the likely increase in some of the construction costs we're seeing everywhere are going to be probably pretty well covered by the fact that the interest rate you're going to be playing on that low interest loan is significantly less than what was expected. I say significant. I want to say it. I think I saw it was 1.45%.
Wow.
In this coming quarter. So
yeah, LIBOR is 1.
So hopefully those are going to balance out, basically.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to Councilmember Keisler. Do you have any questions for Keith or City Manager Uhas?
No, everything. I appreciate all your work, Mr. Krantz, a lot. Thank you.
All right, and we'll move to Councilmember Arth. Go for it.
Excuse me. The question is for the new pipe that's going in under the USDA program. What is the expected service life of that pipe?
Well, it's all going to be PVC pipe, except for where we're going to be crossing the Simpson Avenue Bridge will be ductile iron because it's exposed to the environment. PVC pipe, it's such a fun topic because it matters what manufacturer it is that you're looking at as how long the pipe lasts. But PVC pipe has been guaranteed to last 75 years if it's been installed properly, for probably 20 years. And just recently, they're now putting that up to 100 years as they've analyzed pipe that's been in the ground for 30 years. It's not showing deterioration. So it should last a long time.
Fantastic. The other is more a comment. Both Mayor Lucchese on behalf of the city of Mount Shasta and yours truly on behalf of the city of Dunsmuir, we're both involved in the IRWM process. And in our last few meetings, we have been talking more and more about regionalization and working with our sister communities of Mount Shasta and McLeod on ways to share the costs of everything from water testing to buying water treatment, substances, and so on. And I hope with our city manager, Paul Rose is a retired general manager from the Truckee district, and he's coming up. He knows the staff in the different public works departments. And I hope this is a conversation we can have in the months ahead on how to maximize performance and minimize cost.
You bet.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and I believe, I don't know if you mentioned this, Councilmember Arth, that we're going to try and arrange a Zoom call or some kind of online meeting with Paul Rose to discuss as a main group. So hopefully that'll inspire some discussion and see what we can do for regionalization.
Yep.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions? None, I'm going to move into public comment for this item. Just to remind members of the public, you can either put something into the Zoom chat function, or you can raise your hand. And to raise your hand, you go to the taskbar and you go to participants. And then you should have a couple of little gray buttons at the bottom of the participant window. One of those options should be to raise your hand. So if you would like to make a comment, we are on old business, USDA loans. USDA loan and grant discussion. It's an info only item. Is there any public comment? Wait a couple more minutes. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment and we will move into discussion. Again, it sounds like this is an info only item that you guys will, City Manager Uhas and Pace will return with a resolution at the next meeting. So is there anything else you'd like us to discuss, Keith?
I assume that question was to me?
Yeah, either one.
Okay. Yeah. No, not at this time. You just let me know. Todd, Blake can get you my contact number. Be willing to talk to any of you guys about anything going on. Once this starts, this will be a pretty big project, so it will disrupt life in different locations around town off and on, basically probably for a year, with not working in the middle of the winter, obviously. So anyway, I really appreciate working with you guys. And like I say, just feel free to contact me at any time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion, council members? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the old business item USDA loan and grant contract with no official announcement of award, since that will be brought back to us in the future agenda. And I will move us into new business. We do have 5 items on new business, and we will start with item 11A, discussion on banning fireworks. So there was, just to give some context, there was a public request put forward to discuss banning fireworks in the city limits this year. This item will be a discussion on options for the city council concerning fireworks use. City Manager Uhas, would you like to give us more information?
Sure. I just know that you had mentioned that that Mount Shasta had banned fireworks for the year, and because of COVID-19, and the same issue pertains down here in terms of what do we want to do in terms of a formal not. But what's our position on fireworks displays coming up, given that it's very difficult to maintain social distance in this time?
So just a point of interest, Mount Shasta has not banned fireworks, so there is no ban up there, but they did cancel the fireworks show for 4th of July.
Gotcha.
Anything that happened. I think just for other context, I think the public request we received a couple weeks ago also had a concern about fire season this year, since we will be in a drought, and had some concerns over fireworks. We did also receive some public input in the form of an email saying that people would like to keep fireworks. It'll be an interesting public discussion, and I don't necessarily think that we would make any decisions tonight, but we could if you wanted. But I will open it up for council members to ask questions, and then we'll go into go into public comment. Arth, do you have any questions?
Has there been any consultation with either our disaster preparedness committee or the fire chief?
No, I haven't gotten a read from either one of them. I think that the Disaster Preparedness Advisory Committee would probably, but again, I'd like someone from that group to weigh in, would probably vote against it. And, but I can check with, Dan's going to say yes. I mean, he's always ready to respond to any calls, just doing it carefully. It's just, I think we are very dry, and We are in a pandemic, so those are the two things to kind of keep in mind. But I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Deutsch.
Yes, I would just say that during one of the meetings we had with the community care team, that Linda Shaban did get this as something to consider, but they didn't have a chance to talk about it yet. So they don't have an official word on it, but they are looking forward to what we have to say.
Okay. Councilmember Keisler, do you have any questions right now before we move into public comment? We can discuss a little bit more once we hear from the public, but do you have any questions?
That's fine. Let's hear from the public.
Okay. Councilmember Bryan, any questions?
No.
Okay. And I don't have any questions, but just to add, I did do a little bit of background research into what other cities do as far as options. There are some cities like Los Angeles, because they are so dry, they have a strict prohibition against any types of fireworks. There are other cities, though, that do allow for fireworks that don't project into the air, so you can still get, you know, sparklers and some of the smaller scale fireworks for communities. And then there's some communities that don't have any regulation whatsoever. So there are a number of options that we can consider moving forward with this item if we would like to discuss this further at another meeting and with DPAC. So there are a number of different city ordinances that are there that we could look into a little bit further. So I'm going to close our questions and then move us into public comment. Is there any public comment on the discussion on banning fireworks? Again, if you're in the participant, you go to your toolbar, go to participants. There should be a button that says raise hand. You could also in the chat let me know if you want to discuss you for your 3 minutes. No, but oh, there we go. Wendy, go ahead.
So there was a public comment from Lori Barnes Harley. She did write us a letter, and I think it was included in the agenda packet. Did you want me to read that on her behalf? She's not able to join us on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, you for Zoom practice, I think we do have to read it into the record as long as it doesn't exceed 3 minutes. So if you want to read it, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I think it should be pretty quick. It says, hello, I am writing today in response to the news article that said Bruce is wanting to cancel fireworks this year. Please do not do this. Every year now, my block has gathered as a group to celebrate the 4th with me. I love fireworks, and anyone who knows me knows I buy a lot of fireworks from the Dunsmuir booth by Manfredi's. For me, my annual fireworks gathering has become therapeutic for me. I have plans to make sure people social distance and will probably not do food this year, but please do not take away my chance to let all of the year's frustrations and heartaches be blown up with pretty lights and sparkles. We are always fire safe and have hoses and water at the ready, and the one tree with low branches was trimmed this year by the city, so they've been looking forward to the 4th of July ever since. Thank you, Lori Barnes Harley, RN BSN.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Is there anyone else? Oh, Mario. Go ahead, Mario.
Yes, I'm going to tell you something that's the same person with two opinions. One is Chamber of Commerce was going to do a fireworks booth this year, and she's heading that up, and came to me with some questions and comments. She's working tonight. It's Mrs. Rogers, Jeannie Rogers, with the pizza parlor. But let me express it this way. She really hates not being able to fundraise for the chamber in this time and moment. But she also feels that for her consideration and her family consideration, they just as soon see the fireworks banned. So you can see that juxtaposition, that difficult thought that the city needs to go through in discussing this and going through all the concerned parties to come up with some kind of conclusion. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment on a discussion on banning fireworks? All right, I'm going to close the public comment on this item. So, council members, if you'd like to discuss, I'm going to start with Council Member Deutsch.
Thank you, ma'am. I see this as having two elements to it. One of them is the COVID-19 and social distancing. But I'm more concerned, because I guess that could be managed if done properly, but I'm more concerned about just starting a fire. And the options are that I think that there could be a middle ground where we allow on the 4th of July with a permit to the city to have something like Lori is talking about. But in terms of on a daily basis throughout the summer, people popping off fireworks and all of that, I think that's dangerous. And I'm really concerned about that right now. So that's my viewpoint, is that I think it's more about not wanting to burn the city down and finding a way to do that that recognizes that the 4th of July maybe can be a special circumstance if handled properly. That's my comment.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bryan.
I think that, we probably are in a minor drought this year based on the winter snowfall levels. But, I'm not sure if this is something that's a big issue. I guess I'd like to hear from our fire chief on his thoughts of us needing to do this specific to this year before taking any action.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Keisler.
I also kind of like to hear from the fire chief and the disaster committee. However, I got to echo Bruce's concerns, and I will tell you that, yeah, Lori puts on a good show, but Louis Dewey at Cave Springs has put on a show for 40 years, and he has everybody sit out on the grass, and we have a beautiful show, has a band dancing, beautiful show. But this year he's not interested in any of it. He realizes because of this corona thing that he don't want the people gathering, and he's taking this pretty serious, as well as the drought and dry factor that we've been having this season. We're at less than 50%. So I have to echo Louis Dewey's concerns, but as Louis says, whatever the community decides, he'll go along with, but he has his reservations, as he put it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Arth.
I've only thought about this for the last 15 minutes, but I favor Councilmember Deutsch's middle ground. I understood that a fireworks booth was traditionally personed by Dunsmuir High School to raise money for athletic equipment. Is that still the deal or no more?
No more. The Chamber of Commerce is raising it to raise money for the Chamber of Commerce.
So what I would pitch to the fire chief, especially with the notion there's no big displays in southern Siskiyou this year, and Mount Shasta has canceled their big celebration. Let's go small. And, Louis Dewey can be the chair of the 2020 4th of July celebration, but do it in the baseball field with the fire department there with 2 or 3 pieces of equipment and Dan overseeing it. But I like the idea of a very small Independence Day display. Lord knows we're going to need it. Plenty of room for social distancing, or if you're a family, you can all sit on your blanket, or if you're friends, you can all sit on your blanket. but keep it fire safe and try to raise some money for the community. That's just my first thought.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like, just to summarize the discussion, City Manager Uhas, we would like an item brought back to City Council at the next meeting, especially with DPAC's input. I believe they have a meeting coming up. Then Chief Padilla's input as well on what recommendations would be on this item.
Got it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I just want to clarify from my standpoint that I'm not trying to push one way or the other. I just think it's something that we need to discuss. So I'm looking forward to getting that information so we can discuss it down the line.
Yeah, and I can look into a couple more cities and see what other ones are doing. Like I said, there are certain cities that do an array of options. So one of the other ones is strictly prohibiting fireworks unless they're being done by a licensed professional. That's the other option, is to make that the point. But I can research a couple of different items and bring them to the staff report so we can take a look at the options that we have. You know, I would hate to take away all different types of fireworks. There are some that are much more harmless than others, in my opinion. We are in a canyon. It is going to be dry come July. So I'm a little hesitant to allow for a lot of the projectile type stuff. And that's just my point of view on it, but I'd like to see a little bit more. I don't think I'd like a strict prohibition. But anyway. Council members, are there any other requests from City Manager Uhas on this item for the next meeting? All right, seeing none, I will move us forward in our schedule. And again, I apologize for my dog. That sounds like a coyote. We will now move into item 11B, which is discussion on USDA loan and grant. This item is a request to authorize city manager to sign and execute agreements with engineer, interim financing bank, legal services, and bond counsel regarding USDA funded water main project that is in conditional status. City Manager Uhas, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, other than this just allows me latitude once we know when we're going to bid and when we have a bank lined up, because there seems to be a bank required as a middleman, to move forward and sign the required documents to move forward as far as we can on our water projects.
Okay. And does this tie into the projects we just discussed in old business?
Yeah, that exactly. And the next, and if you'd like, the next item up is part of this.
Okay.
And that is, we've gone out to bid for automatic meter reading. This is being able to read these meters remotely, and we have 2 respondents right now, and we're evaluating those. But we're requesting to use money that we will be getting from USDA to help fund the purchase of these meters, and our staff will install them as opposed to hiring somebody else to do it.
Okay. I'm going to try and keep us on schedule since this was itemized as 2 separate things. So I'm going to keep us on the USDA loan grant item for right now, and then we'll move on to water meters since we'll probably take public comment on both items. So council members, are there any questions of City Manager Uhas? Councilmember Deutsch says no. Councilmember Bryan?
No.
Councilmember Arth?
Ready to move the item anytime.
All right, Councilmember Keisler, any questions?
Ready to move it with Peter.
All right. All right, we're going to open this item up for public comment. If any members of the public would like to make a comment on the USDA loan grant and a authorization or a request to authorize the city manager to sign and execute agreements, is there any public comment? Again, feel free to use the chat function if you can't find the raise hand function. We might have a chat. Oh, sorry, Wendy, I just got your chat. It didn't notify me that you were doing that. All right, seeing no public comment on this item, council members will move into discussion. Is there any discussion?
You want this one, Peter?
Ready to move the item.
Go for it.
I so move 11B.
Is So it would be a motion, to authorize the city manager to sign and execute agreements with engineer, interim financing bank, legal services, and bond counsel regarding USDA funded water main project that is in conditional status. Is that
I'll
correct?
second that.
All right. Councilmember Arthur, is that the motion you're moving?
Exactly.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember R, second by Councilmember Keisler. Is there any discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Keisler?
Yes.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries. So we will now move on to the water meter item. So this is a request to authorize the city manager to award water meter purchase quote to the winning quote. Additionally, City Council is being asked to authorize the purchase using Fund 31, Water Improvement Fund. If conditions are met, this expenditure will be reimbursed through USDA funding package. Council members, do you have any questions of City Manager Uhas on this item? Councilmember Arth?
Well, could we get a brief backgrounder on the state of metering for residential and commercial in Dunsmuir? Are some of our connections metered, all of our connections metered? I don't really know. And what is the state's requirement for municipal operators like ours to be individually metered?
So there are a couple things to that. So some of Dunsmuir, I don't have the exact percentage, are metered. I mean, they're all metered, but some have automatic meter reading in place. We want to continue to move forward with these new meters, in that what we're finding is the meters that we've used in the past, including some of the new automatic meters, not the ones that we've asked to respond to the RFP, but can't read our water volumes very well because the water's so clean and it's not chlorinated. And so we're finding at places like, the bottling plant, we see and we can hear water running through, but it's registering as having no water in the line. So this is partially rectifying that, and it's also making it easier and A, more efficient, and B, more accurate, and should put more money in the city's coffers by installing these.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Deutsch, go ahead.
Yes, I would point out that the Shasta Retreat is an area that doesn't have meters. It's a special situation because of the crazy configuration of piping down there, but everybody else is metered.
All right, are there any other council member questions? All right, seeing none, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Are there any public comments on the award for water meter purchase? Don't have anybody in the chat. I don't see any hand raised. And Wendy, I don't believe we got any emails on this, so I'm going to move us into discussion and close the public comment. Council members, is there any other discussion on the item at hand? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move to authorize city manager to award water meter purchase quote to the winning quote. Additionally, that the city council's I guess that's the end of the motion there.
I second it.
All right, there's a motion by Councilmember Deutsch, second by Councilmember Bryan for the request to authorize city manager to award. Do you want to add the second part, which is to also authorize the purchase using Fund 31?
Sure, that's what I was trying to figure out how to put that into there, but yeah, I would like to have that included.
Okay, so it would be a motion to authorize the city manager to award water meter purchase to the winning quote, and also authorize the city manager to
Purchase using Fund 31 Water Improvement Fund, is that right?
Yep, if conditions are met, this expenditure is reimbursed through USDA funding.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had in mind.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Arth, you have a question or discussion on the motion at hand?
Well, just discussion, comment. To me, this is a win-win-win from society, which benefits by efficient use of water, to the city that more accurately measures and bills for the water that is used, to the individual consumer. It's much more fair. And we've heard a lot of blowback over the years about those that waste and those that scrimp. It embraces technology, and my standing on the chair applause to everybody that got us to this point. This is a really good thing for our small community. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Keisler, you have your hand up, and I saw that you were muted.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to get unmuted.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure if you had any other discussion. Any other discussion on the motion at hand? Seeing none, we'll move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Keisler?
Aye.
Councilmember Arth?
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 11, which is discussion on city reopening post-COVID-19. And this is, I believe, a presentation of City Hall policies. City Manager Uhas, is that correct?
It's just informational. So as we move into phase 3, eventually, it allows for reopening of some government buildings and allows for places of worship to open up. So based on everything that I've heard, and with the extended phase 2 reopening today, I'm moving towards a proposed reopening of City Hall on June 15th, because I want to see if we move into phase 3 immediately, to see if there is a spike in cases up here, and I want to just make sure that our employees are safe, and just remind folks that everything is up and working as normal. The only thing that we aren't allowing right now is folks to walk into the office, but we're able to make appointments with the individual folks, and we're taking people's phone calls and answering them as soon as possible. But shooting for June 15th, and looking forward to, I think all of us are looking forward to getting back to some semblance of normal.
All right, thank you. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Deutsch?
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Keisler?
Well, I know that everything's been shut down and postponed, but I'm hoping that maybe we can still pull off the Brew Fest. So I agree in waiting, but yeah.
All right, Councilmember Bryan, any questions?
No, I mean, I guess I understand putting safety first. I think we just need to assess it relative to all the inherent, and it's been difficult to really gauge. So, I think we just need to be ready to reopen at some point, because a lot of information isn't getting out to people on the city side. But I understand the times. I think June 15th sounds like a really good target.
Yeah.
Councilmember Arth, any questions?
No questions, one comment.
Okay, I will open this up for public comment before we move into discussion. Is there any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, and I don't see anybody in the chat. All right, we'll close public comment on the discussion on post-COVID opening for City Hall. And I will move right away to Councilmember Arth for your comment and discussion.
Well, I sort of go back to Mike Rodriguez's report. I think it is a shame for all the effort that we put into updating our community center that it lies dark and empty. So I like the notion of City Hall cautiously reopening on June 15th, but I feel like we're losing connection with the citizens in our community from the shelter in place regime. So would especially the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city manager, would you guys feel comfortable with social distancing, having a session in our community building sometime before June 15th to let people in our community know what's going on?
I don't know if the state has issued any type of regulations on Brown Act committees post-COVID.
Well, we could have a meeting.
What?
We could have our next meeting, Madam Mayor, at the community building.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't know what the regulations are for Brown Act committees and what they're going to end up being. I would caution putting together an in-person meeting until we get state and public health advisory on how we would conduct meetings. I mean, it's similar to kind of what Mike Rodriguez brought up. You know, if we start opening those meetings and we have a couple of members come and they sit too close, or you know, something happens, you know.
Well, I just thought it was big enough for social distancing. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know for myself that we're quite there yet, in my opinion. I understand the need to connect with our residents, especially those who may not be able to get on Zoom or the internet. I do try and go out and talk to people while I social distance in the community. I would just rather, my personal opinion, I would rather wait until we get some guidance on how we're going to do Brown Act committee meetings and how that's going to look from now on. I know it's frustrating for a lot of people, but until there's a vaccine or anything like that, you know, we're going to have a very new type of normal that we're going to have to kind of deal with for a little bit here.
And one thing to add, it's, you know, there hasn't been a change in Brown Act in the discussion about reopening meetings. There has been some discussion about in phase 3 reopening meetings, but not to more than 15 people and keeping social distance in place. The one thing I would caution is if you're running an in-person meeting, well, I think the risk is fairly low that people do what they're asked. It is, you know, it is a potential liability issue, although low.
Well, and how do you determine which 15 people get to be chosen to sit in the meeting? And I would rather wait myself until we get a little bit better insight from the state on how we would be conducting those.
Well, if restaurants are allowed in phase 2 to open with 6 feet of social distancing between one another, it seems if we maintain those same distances, if it's practical, it would fall totally within the spirit of phase 2. But I think in us delaying until June 15th, we're just trying to get a gauge on whether this becomes a bigger issue or whether we can go full speed ahead with the phases as laid out by the governor currently. So I think
I would feel,
you know, it is better safe than sorry.
Yeah, I would rather wait until after June 15th to see how Memorial Day pans out. I think being the first big 3-weekend holiday that we have after reopening a little bit, I think this will be a little bit of a litmus test on how we're going to pan out. But
hopefully it won't change the name of it won't change the meaning of the name.
Yeah. Council members, is there any other discussion on this item?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Councilmember Arth?
Well, we've all had our personal experiences living in southern Siskiyou County, but you really would have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not appreciate the tension amongst our neighbors as to whether it's time to reopen, it's not time to reopen. And I do think we have a civic duty in our little tiny community to not get divided on this issue, especially as our economy is trying to recover. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Council members, any other comments before
I guess I would like to hopefully have us come to some sort of a consensus on what message we do want to send out to both our citizens and any tourists that come here. because it's, you know, whatever we put our foot forward, that's going to be what other people look to. And again, I'm concerned about masks and things like that. If we could make that some way that people accept that, I think that'll be a lot safer than the way it is right now with everyone just coming up without any masks.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Keisler.
Hey, Bruce, you should change that saying. Do the task, wear the mask.
Yeah, I think it, you know, to be supportive of any public health initiative and trying to ask people to do that. I know there is some tension around wearing a mask. I know I went to the farmer's market in Mount Shasta right when it opened, and the woman in front of me did not have a mask and they turned her away. And she got very vocally upset, which I find really fascinating. So yeah, it's I mean, it's to the point where they're probably going to have a police officer at the next farmer's market for Memorial Day in Mount Shasta because of how heated some people got at the first one. You know, the way I view it personally is it's a common courtesy to other people to just wear a mask outside when you're going around. It's the same thing. Like, I don't particularly like using hand sanitizer, but I've been using it much more just because that's the act of kindness. I mean, I guess that's the message that I would put out. And as far as, you know, having the in-person meetings, I understand, but I want to make sure that, you know, we're not creating a space that endangers people ultimately.
Well, and more importantly, because we have an alternative that seems serviceable.
Yeah.
We're an essential function of the community, far more than a lot of things that are on their way to being open. So, I think the more we experience the Zoom meeting, the more we'll be able to be productive in this format if we have to.
Yes, but yeah, I would like to see how June 15th goes and see if we get some notification from the state. And of course, once the state says go forward, here are your requirements or guidelines, at least, I would be more than happy to have an in-person that we can space out a little bit more. And I'll work with City Manager Uhas on the logistics and Wendy as well. I have a feeling maybe using the community building might be more advantageous than our tiny little council chambers. So that might be something we adjust. So I think that's the big thing going into post-COVID-19 world is everybody's going to have to be flexible, and people are going to have to look at some of these measures as an act of kindness to other human beings rather than having your rights limited. So, all right. Is there any other discussion on this item? I'm going to move us forward into item 11E, which is airport ad hoc committee appointments. So this is an item to appoint 2 members of the city council to the airport ad hoc committee that we approved at our last meeting. So council members, are there any questions before I move into public comment?
I thought that you and Bruce were the 2 members.
Technically, once we formed it, we did not formally appoint anyone. If you would like to recommend us to be appointed, you can do that after public comment.
Very good.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow procedure and just, you know, in case anyone got the notion they wanted to be on an airport ad hoc. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to move us into public comment. Is there any public comment on council member appointments to the airport ad hoc committee? I don't see any, so I'm going to close the public comments and move us into discussion. Is there discussion or a motion to appoint members?
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I'd
Councilman.
like to make a motion to appoint yourself, Madam Mayor, and Bruce Deutsch, as council agreed, to the ad hoc committee.
Okay, and that will be for 1 year.
For 1 year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion made by Councilmember Keisler to appoint myself and Councilmember Deutsch to the airport ad hoc, and a second by Councilmember Arth. Any discussion on the item at hand?
Just a quick comment on the 1 year. Can it be 1 year from, say, the first December meeting? so that going forward, everything's on the right, we revisit the appointments at the correct time.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
December, June, whatever.
I just wanted to clarify in case anybody at any time wants to be on that ad hoc, that we're not sitting on it forever. All right. Seeing no other discussion, first off, thank you. I think on behalf of Bruce and myself, I think we're happy to be able to move forward with the airport functions and be able to meet the needs of the pilots and land tenants there.
Thank you for your commitment to you both.
Thank you. And try and make it a fiscally positive thing. That's the goal right now. All right. Seeing no other discussion, we will move into a roll call vote. Councilmember Deutsch.
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Aye.
Councilmember Arth.
Aye.
And myself is also an aye. Motion carries and you're appointed. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone.
So we do not have any other new items on the agenda.
Oh, wait. Madam Mayor,
Yes.
for future agenda items,
Okay.
I'd like to reiterate what I kind of mentioned earlier. That was before my truck got totaled. That I've had people come to my house in all extreme times. I've had people come to my job sites. I had a lady walk into a room I was working in a house that neither one of us owned.
Oh.
These people need a place to vent or to talk about their site, whether they're right or wrong. We need to give these people some type of platform, format, whatever, but they need to voice if they feel they were wronged. They need to have a place to do it. So on the next agenda, I'm asking that the city manager put something together that us council can talk about, even if it means making exceptions or changing some rules, because people need to park where there's a construction zone on a big project. A 3-hour parking time limit does not work for an 8-hour workday, especially when all the businesses are closed.
So Councilmember Keisler, thank you for noting that. I don't want to necessarily run into a full discussion tonight before the items agendized, but we do have the parking ticket item on the next agenda. Like I said before, it was supposed to be on this one, but our city attorney did not have a resolution ready in time for our consideration. So I have parking ticket process as one item, and then I also have downtown parking as a separate item. I know Councilmember Arth about this with you as well, about talking about the downtown parking situation. So I have those as two separate items.
Madam Mayor, on behalf of my constituents, I thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then the vacant building item, Councilmember Arth, that you mentioned before with weed, is it okay if we just get earmark an update at the staff comments on where we're at with the vacant building ordinance for the next meeting?
Yes, I think I would appreciate that, as will a number of my tenants. We're very much trying to rebuild the historic district, and the more we can march in lockstep with the city of Weed, the better our general fund will be.
Okay. And the other item I have written down for future agenda items is the farmers market. City Manager Uhas, is that something that we could expect on the next agenda?
Well, I'm looking at what Andrea put together. I just haven't looked at it until my first thing tomorrow, and I'm gonna, make comments if I need to on it, but would like to get them up and rolling. That's something that the governor says is okay to move forward with the right, procedures in place. But I would like to mention something about the vacant building ordinance, if I may.
If it's quick.
Very quick. So we have not been enforcing the vacant building ordinance, and this is the reason. We can't. There's, the particular party that we'll all call X and Point that we know isn't going to do anything, and that's really who we want to get moving off the block. And I'm working in lockstep with weed. The only issue is there are a lot of other folks that fall into that same category all throughout the city. And if you start cracking down on vacant and distressed properties now, and the goal is to either get them to sell their property or to get another business into that location, is that time to do it is not while we're in lockdown, because they're not going to find a business that's willing to invest right now. So, and I'm open to suggestions on that. If I'm wrong, I'll take any direction from you guys that you'd like. But that's why we haven't been aggressively moving on that one.
Okay. So without moving into a discussion on this item, I would advise the city council members to email City Manager Uhas about that.
Thank you.
So again, just to reiterate that what I've written down for the next meeting is parking tickets, which was going to be on anyway, downtown parking, farmers market, and then if there's any other pieces of business, I think City Manager Uhas had a couple of other items that weren't able to make it on this agenda. That will be on the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe for most of June, we'll be pretty much in finance mode. So that's the other big items to remember. So even though we'll cover a couple things at the next meeting, our second meeting in June should probably be primarily dedicated to the financials. So if anyone has any future agenda items, please feel free to email me and I'll put them on a list. But I'm going to try and hold that last meeting in June for finance. We'll have probably a lot to talk about.
I would anticipate both meetings in June being
correct.
Such things.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Arth.
Well, full disclosure, I emailed the mayor and the city manager on the heels of the last airport committee meeting, saying that I think there is a consensus amongst the council as far as declaring the airport an enterprise zone, establishing a debt to the general fund, and what we really, really need on the finance committee and for our budget is an operating budget, capital and expense for the airport for the next couple of years. So it would be wonderful if we could get anything, no matter how much of a white elephant wild guess it is.
All right, I will discuss that with our finance director. Okay, any other items?
I move we adjourn.
All right, we are moving into item number 13, which is adjournment. There's a motion by Councilmember Deutsch to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to I'm going to give it to Councilmember Keisler on that one. So moved by Councilmember Deutsch, second by Councilmember Keisler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
I'm not going to roll call because we pretty much want to adjourn. So thank you everyone who tuned in this evening. I appreciate it. If you have any questions on any of the items that were presented today, please feel free to reach out to Wendy Perkins, who is our—
Madam Mayor,
Sorry,
you're doing a really good job holding meetings via this computer thing. So good job. Keep it up.
Thank you. I am a millennial. I know technology. And then again, if anybody has any questions, Wendy Perkins, City Clerk, or Todd Uhas, City Manager. Wendy has her hand up. Is there anything you'd like to mention, Wendy?
I just wanted to ask you to, I guess, end the meeting since you're the host and stop recording at the end.
Okay, I will. I just wanted to do the last pieces if any.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
By the way, Wendy, you're doing a good job too.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. And I will stop recording now. And that is
good night.
And we will be leaving. So have a good night, everyone.